Welcome to another episode of Attacking Third, a CBS Sports soccer podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports. Joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, broadcaster analyst for CBS Sports. On today's segment, we've got a doozy. We've got a Challenge Cup midweek recap for everybody, and we've got a Challenge Cup weekend preview for you all. But first, a quick reminder on Twitter for all news and updates. You can follow us at Attacking Third. We also have a TikTok, so go ahead and follow us there. You can watch cool highlights and so much more. And of course, you can catch us as video too at youtube.com/Attacking Third. Be sure to hit subscribe if you're already joining us live, and subscribe so you never miss out on our exclusive interviews or whenever we go live. Oh, we had to go live with this one, Lisa, because we said, look, recap, preview, there's a lot to get through, so many games. Let's join the people. Let's join the masses once more and do everything all at once. So how are you doing today? You ready to get this ball rolling?
I'm good. I mean, we talked a little off mic before we went live about how much there is. I mean, midweek matches, we have them, and then we have a weekend slate ahead of us. Five matches on Wednesday, 6. So only 2 clubs getting some rest time this week. Otherwise, it's pretty much back to back to back, which I think changed the rosters that we saw on Wednesday night because it is such a quick turnaround for so many clubs. But I'm excited to chat about it because these are the weeks right now, this midweek Wednesday and this upcoming weekend of games that really determine the rest of the Challenge Cup, who makes it onto the semifinals, who we could see come out on top, which teams are actually being consistent in their play, and which teams really are not. It's kind of a crapshoot whenever they step out onto the pitch. And I want to chat about it with you. And I'm glad we're doing it live. So anyone that's with us can join us in the chat. Say, hey, ask us some questions. Give us your thoughts as well.
Yeah, exactly. We love to hear from everybody. I mean, it's hard to believe that we're going to be doing this live episode where it's kind of this fusion of a recap and a preview all at once, right? But the biggest thing that I want to remind everyone joining us right now is that even though 3 weeks have passed already, or 3 rounds of matches have passed, it's officially the halfway point of the Challenge Cup. If for whatever reason people are still trying to get caught up on the action, there's a way for you to do that. You can catch all NWSL matches on Paramount Plus. You can catch them live and on demand. So check them out if you've missed a couple matches already, because sometimes the slate of games can be overwhelming, but you can go on back and catch a game that maybe you missed out while you were keeping an eye on another different game. So check that out on Paramount Plus. We also need to chat a little bit about another fantastic show. We Need to Talk airs a special episode from New Orleans this Sunday. Jamie Edralt, Lisa Leslie, Swin Cash, and Renee Montgomery are going to preview the men's championship game and highlight the legacy of Pat Summitt in celebration of the 50th anniversary of Title IX. Plus, the head coaches from both men's championship teams join to look back at their program's tournament runs and discuss the upcoming title game. Catch We Need to Talk on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern at CBS Sports Network. Love We Need to Talk. We did so much fun stuff with them during this month of March. Hard to believe we already zipped through all of our cool stuff celebrating Title IX with them.
Yeah, a huge Title IX series we put out with a lot of panelists from We Need to Talk. It's a great show with women panelists talking about sports and the issues in sports. And this one on with a lot of great people and on Pat Summitt. Like, love that. What a great conversation for sure.
Absolutely. Let's move ahead a little bit. Let's take a look at some of the matches that we're going to be recapping for everyone, which was 5 games that took place in midweek action for NWSL Challenge Cup. Orlando Pride versus Gotham FC, Chicago Red Stars versus Racing Louisville, Washington Spirit versus North Carolina Courage, Portland Thorns versus Angel City, and Houston Dash versus Kansas City Current. We're going to be taking a deep dive on a trio or so of these games because there were certain teams that kind of tipped the scales a little bit when it comes to the group standings in the East, Central, and West divisions. And 2 of these teams in particular are really kind of starting to separate themselves kind of from the pack, right? While another one of these teams finally got a breakthrough win, right? And we're going to start at the top of the docket here with Orlando Pride versus Gotham FC. We got to chat a little bit about Gotham FC finally picking up a win in the Challenge Cup. Lisa, what were some of your takeaways from this match?
I think you've said it best, Sandra. Finally getting a win. When we previewed the Challenge Cup and previewed Gotham, we had a lot of high hopes for them with bringing Christy Mewis, bringing in Ashlyn Harris and Ali Krieger, and what they have in their relationship up front with Purse and Onamanu and Monahan. There's a lot of good pieces there, but we didn't see that come together in these first few weeks of Challenge Cup. Honestly, the first 60 minutes of this match against Orlando, even. This was a big game. Emotions were very high. Harris and Krieger returning to Exploria Stadium in Orlando for the first time, going against their old club. And what we've seen from Orlando throughout this Challenge Cup is a little bit of ups and downs. They have moments where they can play good defense and they kind of bunker in and they're a scrappy team that's pretty aggressive, and they have moments of good play. But overall, I would have expected Gotham to dominate this game a month ago when we talked about this between these two sides. And that's just not what we saw. Ultimately, Gotham, they did get on the board, but not until the 86th minute or so on a goal from Margaret Purse. And even then, it was almost like, okay, a goal's a goal. You found the back of the net, but there was nothing super surprising about what Gotham was doing. They weren't dominating this match on every single area of the pitch, which is pretty surprising. I think we're seeing more development from Gotham, though, because they get their first win and they walk away with 3 points in this one.
Yeah, the late game goal was spectacular, right? Let's just call it what it was. Like, it was a spectacular goal from Margaret Purse to put up Gotham in a late game situation, right? And it was one of those goals that felt like once it got scored, it's like, okay, this is a wrap, despite there being maybe a handful of minutes remaining in this game. Tough break, honestly, if you're the Orlando Pride side of this match when you're watching it, or if you're a fan viewing it, or if you're a player playing in it, right? To sort of kind of go all the way, playing an 86-minute game that looked like you were going to walk away with a bit of a result, and then just sort of kind of have this kind of mental lapse, right? It was a goal that came off of a throw-in, if I remember correctly, late in the situation where we've seen that in a couple scenarios throughout different matches already in this Challenge Cup, where there's sort of been this lull in play a little bit, and all of a sudden a team kind of gets this breakthrough goal off of maybe some sloppy play off of a throw-in. And so you have somebody like Margaret Purse, right, who has kind of shown us already, has that presence of mind to just like make that smart decision when it counts. And we saw her win that penalty, right, with the foul against Trinity Rodman in the box in the prior week, and then now this one, making sure that she was there to beat her defender and beat the keeper off their line. So to walk away with this win, it's like there's a ton of things here still to see for Gotham, and hope that they'll continue to build on their things, on their offense, specifically on their attack, because I think a lot of people are looking in on this Gotham side and saying, kind of, we're expecting a little bit more dynamic play, maybe a little bit more dynamic movement in the attack. So these early weeks of Challenge Cup, I think, are leaving some questions for other folks. But it was good to hear Purse kind of in the post game speak a little bit about that and say, listen, we know that there's more to come for us, and hopefully this is what it's going to be. And sometimes you need that type of goal, or maybe you need that type of result, that maybe that's the moment that's going to sort of spark and wake things up for a team. So I'm hoping that that's what this is going to be for this Gotham FC side.
I hope so. You're exactly right on that, because we were expecting more in their attacking presence, because this is a forward group that has played together and has a lot of skill. On the other side of it, for Orlando, Michaela Clough has impressed me a lot. And this is going to be a very challenging year for Clough and for Orlando in how Clough can make an impact in the game. Because as a rookie coming in, how much of an impact can you actually make as a team that's not picking up wins, not picking up results, and not really dominating on the field? How can you leave your mark? So this year, I'm really excited to watch the development of Michaela Clough under Amanda Cromwell, and alongside players like Sydney LaRue and Gunny Jonsdottir in the midfield, Erica Timrack, to help Clough be a little bit more controlling on the ball, which is what we saw against Gotham, picking up the ball in tight spaces, getting on the half turn, driving at defenders, and then spraying the ball out wide. It was impressive to see. So I'm excited to continue to watch Clough and her development, even though she might not be getting results in Orlando overall.
Yeah, let's take a look at the next match that we want to take a little bit on a deep dive on. We are going to take a look at Houston Dash versus Kansas City. This is another game that, again, is sort of bringing the central region into picture, right? We see Gotham steadily trying to keep pace a little bit with North Carolina Courage, who are on top in the East. And now here in the Central, Kansas City Current walking away with a 3-0 victory on the road against Houston Dash, and really kind of putting some separation between themselves in the mix of this central division in terms of the goal differential, at least, right? So we're talking about a full 3-point swing and some goal differential coming into play for Kansas City Current. But I think what's really impressive about this, Lisa, is that they're doing this without some of their star signings that they made in acquisitions over the offseason. And it's delightful to see the Current kind of shedding that 2021 and then coming out here in 2022 and kind of showing that they're out here to compete.
The irony of talking about Gotham and then talking about Kansas City is we had both of these teams high hopes for them for this season coming in. Gotham falling short of those expectations that I had personally, and Kansas City exceeding them. We knew Kansas City was going to be a force to be reckoned with, but as you mentioned, having players that are now out in Lynn Williams and limited minutes in Sam Ewis, and this team still being able to put together a complete 90 minutes and having consistent players in Kristen Hamilton, Haley Mays step up and be those game changers in this match. I think one of the most important things about this Kansas City versus Houston game is that Kansas City scored in the opening 2 minutes off of a set piece. Houston sleeping, just sleeping. This is a team in Kansas City that's what they want to do. They want to put other teams to sleep. They don't want to be that team that other opponents have circled on the schedule. We got to watch out. This is going to be a big matchup, because that's not what they have been. And then Kansas City is going to come in and it's almost like a slap to the face. So that open goal off of the corner kick, Taylor Leach finding the back of the net for Kansas City, that was huge. And I think that shocked Houston a little bit, because what we talked about from Houston's last match last week is Sophie Schmidt playing higher up the pitch. That's where she does better. We saw her get the start in midfield for Houston and James Clarkson against Kansas City, but it wasn't enough, especially to have the opening goal come so early in the game and on a set piece. That's just a big mental lapse for Houston. I think that throughout this match as well, Jane Campbell in goal for the Dash, she didn't have her best performance. She made a few mistakes. She came out on an opportunity that I personally thought was a handball coming outside of the box that Kansas City didn't ultimately score on, but it didn't matter. They were able to get a few more, another one before half from Hamilton, and then Lola Bonta sealing the deal around the hour mark for this one. But I'm very impressed with what we're seeing from Kansas City. I'm very impressed with the rotation they're finding in their back line and playing different players throughout the combination play up top. Hamilton has taken on the role to be the goal scorer for this team in the absence of Mewis and Williams. And Hamilton is doing a great job at it. I'm love watching Kansas City play right now. They're really fun.
Yeah, same here. I think we had high hopes for them right in our power rankings and in all of the work that we were doing towards the offseason in terms of ranking teams and what we were going to be placing them for the 2022 season. And this team hasn't disappointed, right? And I think what I'm most impressed by is their ability to adapt tactically, right? In order to ensure that they're producing results without these players that they went out and made big trades for, respectively, whether it was a Sam Mewis or, a Lynn Williams. Mewis has been on a minutes restriction with this team over the first couple weeks and then didn't see action against Houston. And then you had Lynn Williams in the announcement that was made she was going to be out with a season-ending injury. So missing week 2 action and obviously not available for this week 3 match and for matches to come. But we saw this team make those adjustments already in week 2, right, against the Chicago Red Stars team. But we saw them make another adjustment against this Houston Dash team, kind of coming out in a 5-back a little bit and sort of maybe confusing, Houston in terms of what they were going to be presenting to them on the pitch rather than what they were essentially had prepared for. So it's exciting to see that. out of this Kansas City side. And it was great to see the rookie Elise Bennett get some time with this team. Because I think when we both sort of saw that Lynn Williams was going to be out, I think we both knew, hey, they've still got Kristen Hamilton, right? That is an elite, experienced forward in NWSL. She's someone who can be relied on for goals. But this still early in the Challenge Cup where you can have a rookie forward like Elise Bennett get some minutes, get some starts, start to evolve and create some chemistry with this attack, and maybe kind of have like a little bit of a run, an early run at getting her name in the mix for rookies who are going to try to make an impact this year. And I think we saw it with her 2 assists in this game. It was delightful to see. It was a little bit of a statement game, I think, from Kansas City, although maybe they might not be referring to it, but it's definitely a bit of
For sure.
reintroducing yourself. Like, hey, we're here to compete, so don't count us out. So I loved it. I love that it's 3 goals from 3 different players and the rookie getting a couple assists.
And Bennett is the one that had the breakaway where Jane Campbell coming out just outside of the box and deflecting that ball, and then Bennett looking to get the follow-up and just nearly missing that, which a few more games under her belt, I don't think Bennett's missing that. This is a rookie that's looking to take every chance she gets on the pitch to improve her skill. But definitely a big match, right? It's fun to watch Kansas City evolve, especially from what they were last year through their offseason changes and acquisitions, and now into this Challenge Cup.
Yep. Got one more that we're going to get through in terms of a deep dive of the matches that took place midweek. Portland Thorns versus Angel City. Another lopsided score. Another 3-0 victory for last night's matches. Portland Thorns walking away with the victory in this one over Angel City. Goals from Sophia Smith, from Yasmin Ryan, Morgan Weaver. It was the late night match of the evening. It was the NWSL action after dark type of game. It was the late night title card. So maybe some folks didn't get a chance to take a look at this game and see what kind of came out of it. But we're talking about teams and individual performances that we've been very impressed with from last night's matches. And I think we're looking at this Portland Thorns side, and we got to talk about Sophia Smith, Lisa.
We have to. This game was fun if you're a Portland fan, not so fun if you're an Angel City fan, but as a neutral in myself, just watching for good soccer, this game was tremendous to watch. Having Sophia Smith up top with Morgan Weaver, we've seen Smith and Sinclair, that duo, a lot and what they can do, but to have Weaver and Smith bouncing off of each other, it was tremendous to watch. Off the ball, Morgan Weaver logging miles, tracking down the ball, putting Angel City's backline under a lot of pressure, forcing the ball one way. And then they worked so well together off the ball, staying really tight and central, which forced Angel City to make really dangerous passes that then Portland could pick off and go down the line. So it's really fitting that Smith and Weaver both ended with a goal in this match, because I think their work rate was impressive. It was really fun to watch. We're seeing what Coach Wilkinson is doing with this team and with the talent that she's been given. And she's thinking outside the box. Yeah. And that's really, really fun to see. I think some people were a little surprised not to see Sinclair in the lineup, but this is a quick turnaround for Portland. Just 3 days on the front end, a midweek match, and then 2 days on the back end, essentially, before you get ready for another game. But this was a lot of fun. We also saw Rocky Rodriguez out there for Portland, controlling that midfield and doing a really nice job there. Bella Bigsby in goal, playing really well. And honestly, Angel City, they were flat in this one. Kristen Press causing trouble, but she will always do that. She will always cause trouble. Her shot selection was fine. Nothing special. It wasn't great. Yeah. It's almost like, Press, can you look to combine and pass to Lucy and combine with Endo, or do something else instead of taking it yourself? Because when you're shooting from 25 yards out and you've got 6 defenders in front of you, Bigsby's going to get that. It's almost like they were missing that final pass, but the spread of goals as well, 31st minute, 53rd minute, and then 78th minute, I think was also telling of how Portland gradually continued to control this game from the first whistle until the very end.
It's tough a little bit, right? It's like we know that they're coming into this year that there were going to be a couple expansion sides, Angel City being one of them. And we know the history of expansion teams as they sort of get out there and start to get matches under their belt, and sort of maybe the difficulties in kind of having these slow starts, right? And we're started seeing that with Angel City. And we saw that kind of level out, I think, within 30 minutes. They kind of had a similar start to this game that they did in their previous match against OL Reign, where they tried to make something happen very, very early in the first half, right? And then nothing ended up coming from it. And then things leveled out around the half-hour mark because you had Sophia Smith get that breakthrough goal. And we just sort of witnessed in this match, a game which they were without Savannah McCaskill, and sort of this centrally just not able to make anything happen in terms of the numbers that they were going up against in Portland's middle third. This 3-back that we're watching from Ryan Wilkinson and the Thorns is gonna it's hard to believe, but it's probably just gonna get better with time, quite frankly. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, this is a game that they should have won by multiple goals, right? Because you have an Angel City side that is still trying to figure things out. So maybe getting a win against this Angel City side with only a goal would have maybe felt disappointing, right? But I don't think that's necessarily the case. We have that half-hour window where I don't want to say it was back and forth, but you saw Angel City making attempts to try to get out on the board, and a lot of it was finding Kristen Press, right?
Yeah.
And Kristen Press will bail us out, and she's going to save us. And that's tough, when you're missing somebody like a McCaskill and you're on the road, right? And you're playing in front of the opposition's crowd, and it just never came. And you maybe wonder if the idea was to try to get on the board early and make it a game of things early on. But when that doesn't happen, you have a team like the Thorns sort of take control of the game and do what they do and kind of run away with it. But very impressive performance from Smith. It was just another one of these kind of breakout performances where you're just looking at it and you're like, yeah, this is the new face of the Portland Thorns attack. It's going to be alongside other players, whether it's a Yasmin Ryan or Morgan Weaver, or at times, a Christine Sinclair. But in terms of the future of this club, it's absolutely Smith moving forward.
It has to be. And even Smith and Weaver together, I think that combo is one that wants to stay together. They can feed off of each other and move forward like that. I want to make a probably controversial point about Angel City in this match. They were without Savannah McCaskill, who is the player that they lean into to control the midfield. And up against Portland, that was tough. No one was going to be able to do that. I mean, Portland's midfield is really, really strong. This almost felt like a throwaway game for Freya Coombe and for Angel City. And it was a midweek match. You're without Savannah McCaskill. You're going into Portland Thorns and Providence Park. It's a quick turnaround. It was almost like, all right, let's close our eyes and get through this 90 minutes of doing this, because we didn't see anything different. Even from first half to second half, we didn't see that many tactical changes from Angel City's side. It was almost like, all right, let's try to push through another 45 minutes, see if we can just hold them off a little bit longer instead of trying to impose Angel City's game onto Portland. My take from body language, from what we saw, there wasn't a lot there, especially.
I think once those extra goals came in the second half, it kind of was, you could sort of see the concession road. We saw Kristen Press coming off, I think, in the 79th minute. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, this isn't our game, this isn't our night, doesn't go in our way. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think when you're looking at the type of week ahead for a lot of these teams,
I don't think there's anything wrong with it either. But at least, and who knows, I'm not in the training room with Freya Coombe and what she's talking about and what Press is talking about with the team, but focus on one thing, like let's connect passes or let's win the 50-50 balls. Like there's got to be something that you can improve on. Use the day, because you're out there running around, using the energy to work on something, get better, move players around, get younger players more time. Just my 2 cents. I don't know.
I don't think that's unfair to mention at all. I mean, Challenge Cup, it is what it is, right? It's in front of us and we're evaluating the games, but you still have to do game management, load management, things like that. So if that was, a certain part of the plan, I don't think that's unfair to maybe bring up or chat about. In terms of the other matches, we had a couple draws to close out Wednesday's slate of games. Chicago Red Stars and Racing Louisville playing to a scoreless draw in a rainy, soggy match. And then Washington Spirit and North Carolina Courage playing in a 2-2 draw to sort of close out things here. Of these two games, Lisa, which of the 4 teams here maybe stood out in terms of a performance for you and why?
I'm going to say Washington Spirit because
Okay.
they went down a couple goals at first, 2 goals, down by 2, and then able to come back. And that's the Spirit team that we really haven't seen much of. And going up against a North Carolina team that is the best in that division right now in the East region. I think that Washington, they've been on a progressive increase in their skill and their consistency and what we're seeing from them. And we got to see it even more growth from the young crew and the crew that knows each other in Washington Spirit. I liked this game and handing North Carolina their first draw of this Challenge Cup, their first non 3-point game.
Yeah, they were on a bit of a win streak for a little bit, but still undefeated, I guess they could say. Like some other clubs can also say that in Challenge Cup here. But I'm with you. I thought that was a very exciting match. I think North Carolina Courage are going to be disappointed, right, to sort of walk out away with only the draw after kind of dominating a little bit of that game in the first half. But really nice to sort of see the energy from the Spirit kind of coming into that second half. Red Stars and Racing Louisville, a little bit difficult to kind of gauge. Again, it was another weather match for the Red Stars, the second consecutive one. They had a cold, windy affair at SeatGeek Stadium, and then this one was a rainy, soggy affair, absolutely impacting the pitch. Yeah, you kind of saw the ball not kind of really going where players wanted it to go at times, pockets of the pitch, slowing it down or changing the trajectory. I believe at one point my reaction to watching this game going into the second half as both teams were scoreless was that it was only going to get worse a little bit. The weather was going to start coming down a little, the rain was going to come down a little bit more, and that if there was going to be a goal for either side, it was probably going to be a little bit of an oops. And that almost happened for Racing, except again, physics, weather kind of prevented this goalpost side for the Racing Louisville side to maybe kind of walk away and steal a bit of points. But that's how things shook out for midweek matches. We're going to have to take a look at a preview of matches this weekend. Again, another quick turnaround. We're going to take a quick break before we get into the next matches coming up. Join Just Women's Sports for the warm-up pregame show on Friday, April 1st, ahead of the women's Final Four games, hosted by WNBA legend We Need to Talk co-host Lisa Leslie and WNBA superstar Chini Ogwumike. Tune in at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on TikTok Live. Don't miss it. You want to head on over to @JustWomenSports on TikTok in order to catch all the action. Had to give a shout out, right, to Just Women's Sports. We've had a couple of their podcasters on our podcast, right? Sam Ewis, Lynn Williams, interviews that we've done with them. And it's still technically March. So March Madness is still going on. And we're showing a lot of love to Final Four coming up. So I'm excited for that as well.
For sure. Yeah, we love the podcast crossover snacks with Lynn Williams and Sam Ewis. Yeah, that we've had them on. We've chatted with them. And WNBA, things are happening there. But Challenge Cup, I mean, we got a full slate ahead, Sandra. We've recapped, we've reflected on what happened on Wednesday night, and more to come. Early games, though. I mean, looking at the timeline, early afternoon games, and they're all spread out on Saturday. Much better for me and my programming.
You know what? It's kind of like mirrors Wednesday a little bit for me because there was a ton of soccer happening all day, all over the world. We had, Women's Champions League. We had NWSL. There was CONCACAF men qualifiers that were taking place. It was very, very chaotic on Wednesday. It was outrageous, but it's still going to be a long timeline for Saturday, but everything's going to be spread out a little bit. Let's take a look at the slate of matches. It's going to be Kansas City versus Racing Louisville, San Diego Wave versus Angel City, Chicago versus Houston, Portland versus OL Reign, Gotham versus North Carolina Courage, and Washington Spirit versus Orlando. Games happening Saturday through Sunday. Slate of 4 games on Saturday, doubleheader on Sunday for everybody. We're going to take a look at a couple of the biggest matches that Lisa and I are going to be keyed in on and just give you picks for the other ones. So for San Diego Wave and Angel City, we've got in the highlights for us of the biggest match of the weekend. We're looking at rivalry matches this weekend, and we're going to start with them first. It's going to be round 2 of the California clash here between these two sides. They already had a game against each other. It ended up shaking out to a draw, Lisa, but this time San Diego is going to be on the hosting side of things. Who are you looking at this one and why?
I pick Angel City for this one. Or I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Ooh.
I picked San Diego. I don't think
Oh,
Angel City is going to win. I apologize. I was thinking about
we have
how
we have like your
Angel
Oscar
City had
moment.
played at home and what they had done. Yes, I know. I'm sorry,
That's your
guys.
Oscar. That's your Oscar moment. So San Diego Wave FC. Lisa's going to be going with San Diego. Tell me why.
I'm going with San Diego for this one. I think that we've seen more growth from San Diego. I think that Angel City, they're kind of hitting this brick wall and this roadblock with Savannah McCaskill being out with that red card. She will be back, which will definitely help them, but they're lacking that full field connection. They have good pieces in the back line. They have good pieces in the midfield and good pieces in the front line for Angel City, but they're not connecting through the lines and they're not using each other to succeed and win the balls down the pitch. Whereas San Diego, I think they are playing as a team very impressively for an expansion side coming in. San Diego is also at home for this match, which is a huge advantage to them. This will be a huge one. This game is on CBS Sports Network, I believe, too. It's on Big CBS this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I think that Alex Morgan is really
Okay.
eager for this game because it's an LA San Diego matchup. It's the clash of the California teams and it's at home for San Diego. But I want to see goals, honestly. I want to see more goals from Angel City in this one. I want to see if Kristen Press can find the back of the net because we haven't seen that yet. She's been close, but nothing there yet. And I think that the battle between Morgan and Press is going to be on. It's almost like a pride battle between these two, but I do go San Diego in this one. What about you, Sandra?
Okay. All right, so you're going with a win, and you're going with San Diego.
I am.
I've got this one pegged as a draw. I think that we're going to see a repeat of what we saw in that first inaugural game. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement from the San Diego side of things, and maybe we might see an actual wave in the crowd. Right? Who knows? Maybe a bit of play on the culture there and then the team name. And I think it'll be an exciting match. And I think both teams, these two types of teams, are going to want to get up for that type of rivalry match, right? Mm-hmm. And I just think that there's just going to shake out to be a draw. I do hope it's going to be maybe a little bit of a chaotic draw. I would love to see a 2-2 versus a 1-1. I definitely don't want to see a scoreless draw. I think there's enough here between both of these sides to see some breakthrough moments on goal. And Angel City is going to have back Savannah McCaskill in this one. So hopefully there will be a little bit more dynamic play, some more link-up play that happens as McCaskill has sort of shown some early signs of chemistry developing alongside Kristen Press. There are two players we noticed in these first couple of games that are looking for each other already and kind of maybe sort of, showing that they're recognizing each other's movements a little bit more than some other teammates, so to speak. But I'd also really like to see the battle between the goalkeepers again.
Yes.
That's something that I really enjoyed in that first match between these two teams as well, right? Whether it's a Herrera and a Sheridan. And I think that's why I feel more close to a draw in this one than I do an actual result. Although I would love to see a winner and a loser in this one, but I'm going to keep this one as a draw. In terms of the other biggest match that we're looking at this week, it is another rivalry game, another one that we think is going to have huge implications and standings in the West, when we're going to stay in the West with Portland Thorns and OL Reign in this one. Oldest, longest NWSL standing rivalry, I think it's fair to say, when it comes to these two. And you have Portland coming off of a quick turnaround. So there's going to be a little bit of things like player rotation, maybe rest that's going to come into play. And OL Reign, who did not play during midweek action. So I'm a little curious as to, who you're going to choose in this one and why, Lisa. I know who I'm going to go with, but I'm going to let you take the stage again.
So I think this is going to be a draw.
Okay.
I think that we're going to get a draw between Portland and OL Reign. Although OL Reign is coming off of a rest, right? They didn't play midweek action. Neither did San Diego, the only two clubs to not play this week. OL Reign, they had this week to kind of reset and re-go, but which may have helped them. But I think Portland playing a Wednesday match helped them get a little bit more intense. They're just, those players with the Thorns are so nuts. They just want to play all the time. We saw a little bit of rest from Christine Sinclair that I think the quick turnaround for Portland is going to be fine. I mean, Weaver can handle it. Sophia Smith can handle it. I think Kuika can handle it despite getting up and down the pitch a lot. I think that this one's going to be a battle. This game is going to be huge, because in the standings right now, Portland is on top with 7 points and OL Reign have 4. However, Portland has a game in hand over OL Reign. So that does shake out as well. 2 wins for Portland, only 1 win for OL Reign, and then a draw apiece for both of them. This is a big matchup. I want goals. I'm going like 2-2, but I'm taking a draw on this one. I think the forward lines are going to be going at it. It'll be a quick game. It'll be transitional. It'll be, let's get the ball to Smith's feet. Let's get the ball to Fishlock. Let's get the ball up front to Rose Lavelle, see what she can do, slice and dice with OL Reign, but ultimately coming out with a point apiece.
You know what? I think I'm going to choose a result for this one. I saved my draw for the California teams. For the Cascadia rivalry, I'm going with a win, and I'm going to be going with OL Reign here. I think that the time off is going to be beneficial for them. I think that this is a team that is led by Jess Fishlock, and they thrive when they go on the road to Portland and they have to play in Providence Park. It's something about this game where we see OL Reign come into the facility and they are ready to just go out and compete. And I think the rest will maybe aid them rather than harm them in this one. Although I am expecting a thrilling match in this one as well. It's a late night match for Saturday. I hope people reserve their energy to try to keep themselves tuned in to this one, because these two always sort of play out to an exciting game. But I do hope that with the quick turnaround and maybe some player rotation and some minutes management, that we do get to see a start from somebody like Sophia Smith, that we do get to see the continuation of minutes being built upon by Rocky Rodriguez. This is a player who was missing in that first match against OL Reign and the midfield. And I think if she's able to go on Saturday, it can help shift some things in Portland's favor. But I just think there's more depth in that middle third when we're looking at options in the midfield for OL Reign that are going to help attack that central area more than what we saw in Angel City going up against Portland Thorns. So there's more there to be able to contest again against Portland's 3-back that we're watching them kind of roll out with here under this era of Coach Wilkinson. So I'm excited to see these two go head to head after a little bit of knowledge of the other side already. I think it'll set up the stage for an even better match, but I think it is going to end in a result, and I'm going to be going with OL Reign.
I like that you're taking Reign in this one with the result. The first time they played, it was a 1-1 draw. So I think it'll be different than that. I don't think we'll get a 1-1 draw, but I do still think these teams are battling and it'll be even. I'm going with the draw.
I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up that way either. Let's maybe go through some picks for the remainder of these matches to close out the episode. For Kansas City and Racing Louisville, when you're looking at these two teams, Lisa, who are you picking, win, lose, or draw?
I think Kansas City is going to win this one. They're hot right now. They haven't lost in the Challenge Cup yet. They have wins, a draw, and they're continuously getting better from Kansas City. I think they're rising to the challenge of missing out on some players and not being able to do that. Racing Louisville is not out, though, by any means. They have yet to pick up a win in this Challenge Cup, 2 draws and a loss. But I think from Racing Louisville, their younger players, we're seeing more of that connection from. I think Jess McDonald is also taking on a bigger role where she's realizing she needs to be involved in the attack, whether she's finding the back of the net or she is creating assists. And for Racing Louisville to be able to grow over the last few weeks, I think they have grown against this Kansas City side. I think they'll pose a bigger threat for them. I hope we see Katie Lund back in net for Racing Louisville as well for this side. But ultimately, I take Kansas City on this. They're on a roll. They're going to keep the punches coming.
Listen, it's a quick turnaround for both of these teams, but I think something like home field advantage is finally going to come into play for this Kansas City side. They've started their Challenge Cup out on the road. And now they get to come home and close it out. And I think that they're also going to pick up the win in this one against Racing Louisville. Racing Louisville, though, I don't think is going to make it easy. I think they would embrace the challenge of potentially playing spoiler, right, for that home team on their home field. And we saw in this midweek match, we didn't see any action from Jessica McDonald. So this is a player that's maybe going to be getting the start in this game against Kansas City, who can really make things difficult for any backline. So there will be a little bit of a challenge there. And we saw an impressive game from Ebony Salmon coming out of that Red Stars game. She was tasked with the start and really tried to make some things difficult in terms of getting on the board or making some opportunities happen in that match. So I am going to go with a win, loss, or draw in this one. I'm going with a win, but I'm going with Kansas City. I want to continue to see the development of this team tactically. I'm curious now if we're going to see them kind of play a more methodical game with a 4-back, or if we're going to see them come out in a 5-back, or a fluctuating 5-back like we saw in Houston. It's kind of like a bag of tricks. I want to see what else they've got going on in there. So we'll see
that's what Kansas City and Matt Potter and any of these clubs should be doing during this Challenge Cup, trying out different formations, different players in those roles. I'm kind of hoping for a 3-back from Kansas City against Racing Louisville. Throw some power up top and go to goal.
See what happens. We also have another match in the Central region, Chicago Red Stars versus Houston. When it comes to this one, Chicago is going to be hosting this one as well. It's going to be their third game that they're hosting at SeatGeek. Look, it's still a couple days away. Who knows if this one's going to turn into another weather match? I do know this for sure. It's not going to be hot and humid like in Houston. It's probably going to be cold and maybe a little bit of wind when it comes to playing at SeatGeek. So when it comes to this one, I don't know if that's going to be an advantage for Chicago or a disadvantage for both sides, but I do know that Chicago has had a couple of weather games under their belt already, so maybe mentally they are prepared to sort of embrace that rather than be intimidated on it. I think if there's a game this weekend to be set up for a draw, it could be this one, but I'm going to be going with the home side on this one, and I'm going to say Red Stars are going to pick up a narrow victory against Houston. How about you, Lisa?
The weather is a huge factor for both of these teams, whether it's hot and humid in Houston or it's cold and windy and, no offense, miserable in Chicago. It's an advantage for the home side, no matter which way you look at it. For Houston right now, they're just way too hot and cold. They have no consistency going from one game to the next. And that's a huge disadvantage right now. Whereas Chicago, they have that consistency. It's not incredibly impressive, but they have that consistency. I think if Morgan Gautreau is on the pitch and Pugh, they have strong presence all over the pitch. That'll be good for them. I think we will see Gautreau out there. And when she's on the pitch, she can control that middle of the field. And going up against someone like Shea Groom, Gautreau is going to win that battle. For Houston, though, I want to see more consistency from them. That's just what they don't have. And who knows, they've had really good games and then they flop and they don't show up to a game. I could see them showing up against a Chicago side, knowing that they really want to win this. But Red Stars being at home at SeatGeek Stadium, I have Chicago taking the win on this one as well.
All right, we're both going Chicago on this one. Hopefully they prove us right. And if they prove us wrong, we'll talk about it on the recap. For Gotham FC versus North Carolina Courage, we're starting to see the second matches, the second rounds come into play in this one. These two opened up their Challenge Cup journeys against each other during a week one, and now they're going to be facing each other again. Lisa, who are you picking in this one and why?
This one is really tough for me. Opening match, North Carolina proved themselves 2-0 win over Gotham, and Gotham, they came out flat. I think we're seeing progressive growth from Gotham. Can I pick two draws in a weekend? I think I have a draw between North Carolina and Gotham. I think that both teams will get on the board because we've seen really impressive attack from North Carolina. That's not going to slow down. However, I don't think they'll be able to defend against Anamanu and Purse up top. And I think Mewis is hopefully going to play a bigger presence in this game based on the competition going up against North Carolina. They have faced them already. So scouting this is going to be easier for both sides. I'm going with a draw between North Carolina and Gotham. Sandra, who do you have? This is a big one.
I respect it. I respect the draw. I think if you can get a draw out of this match, both teams will walk away a little bit content. Maybe the Courage more so than Gotham because the Courage are on top of this East group. But I'm going with a winner in this one, and I'm going to be going with North Carolina Courage. I've been impressed by what they've been doing during this Challenge Cup. competition. And what we've been seeing from them in terms of this kind of attack by committee, right? What we've been seeing from Sean Nahas to start in this Challenge Cup, I think has been very impressive and maybe under the radar a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
This sort of concept of, you had so many defenders on your roster, and this concept of utilizing fullbacks and turning them into your front line a little bit. We've seen a little bit of rotation there, right? As they continue to sort of find answers on who is going to be that star striker, who is going to be that person that's going to be the attacking presence. And turns out it's going to be anybody on any given day when it's North Carolina. They've got a number of players who have already gone on the board. I think they have 5 or 6 goals and 5 or 6 different players getting those goals. No one player is running away as the face of this attack. And I like that. I think it keeps oppositions on their toes. We've seen Jalen Daniels. We've seen Taylor Smith. We also saw Kiki Pickett up involved in the attack on that front line. And why not, right? We saw some of this working. And if it's working, why mess with it, right? And I think we're going to continue to see that moving forward. I think that has been providing different looks and difficulties for the opposition in terms of scouting who to mark or who to overload. And I think that's going to pay off in this game as well. Yes, Gotham has Christy Mewis back, but it also took them 86 minutes to get on the board against an Orlando Pride team that absolutely is in the mix of a rebuild, which we already know. Don't use that word with North Carolina Courage, because Nahas and the Courage are saying, we just did a retooling and we're doing just fine. So I just think that while Gotham is laying the foundation, they're still figuring things out. And North Carolina Courage are also in the same boat, but they're a little bit more unpredictable, which is why I'm going to be giving them that X Factor edge in this one. And I'm going to go with them to pick up the win against Gotham. And we got one more to go through, Lisa. You ready? It's Washington Spirit versus Orlando Pride. I don't know. I think we might be picking the same one on this one, but I'm going to let you go first. Who you got and why?
Washington Spirit is going to take this one. I wonder if the off-field tweets and then the tension is going to be building back up in this match. But I have Washington all day taking on Orlando Pride, especially now Pride without Marta, still trying to figure out who can control their midfield and going up against a midfield that Washington Spirit has. It's almost not fair. I think that we could really hope for more movement up front from Washington Spirit. I think we're seeing that a lot more every time they step on the field, but goals from Hatch and Sanchez. I want to see Ashley Sanchez just dominate against Orlando at doing anything she can on the ball, being creative and finding the back of the net. Frankly, these two met in the opening weekend of the Challenge Cup to a 0-0 draw. Lots of cards in this one, 6-3 aside.
Yep.
So it was a chippy game, but I like this. We talked about Michaela Clough in our recap of Orlando's game. I think that if she plays in the midfield, she will be more effective for Orlando, which I think is where we will see her. However, matched up against an Andy Sullivan, it's going to be a battle. I'm excited to watch that 1v1 battle, just solely looking at personnel between Sullivan and Clough on either side. Otherwise, I see Washington Spirit taking this one and almost running away with it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It's going to be round 2 between these two sides. I think Spirit were disappointed to walk away, not only with a draw, but a scoreless draw on top of that. Yeah. And we've seen the progression of this attack over their 3 matches now and how they can sort of maybe come out and all of a sudden spin a game on its heels. And all of a sudden you didn't realize where that came from. So I'm also going to be going with Spirit in this one for a lot of similar reasons that you've stated already. But I'd really like to see the continuation of Trinity Rodman, alongside Sanchez. And I'd really like to see Hatch continue to show why she's a threat in that box, whether it's scoring with her head, left or right foot, sort of kind of this all-around striker. And we'll see what happens out of this one. Hopefully less physical, hopefully less choppy than we saw in that first game. And Spirit maybe figuring out a way to make that work in their benefit versus against them. So we'll see what happens out of this one. It's been a wild, wild, wild episode. Thank you all for joining us for the recap and preview segment of NWSL Challenge Cup. Thank you for listening to Attacking Third. Follow us on Twitter and now on TikTok at Attacking Third for so much more. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your podcast shows. We're also available as video. So hit subscribe on YouTube. Visit youtube.com/Attacking Third. And we'll be back Sunday with a live recap of the weekend slate. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.